logistics worked out. We're ready to begin. Thank you to all of you that are here. If for some reason you'd like to move closer, please do. We have our 5 candidates up here on stage. Stage left, we have Bill Meyer, Jim Bell, Amy Callan, Fran Hofer, and Kathleen Allen. I'm going to read a brief little bio about each of them so you get to know them a little bit better. First, we have Bill Meyer. He was born in Oswego and has lived here in the Oswego City School District for all but 2 years. He's married, he has 3 children. He himself went to Kingsford Park School, St. John's, and then also the Oswego High School. He was the coordinator and transportation director. He worked for our district for 33 years, in addition also as a mechanic, a head mechanic, and the warehouse coordinator. He was also a president of CSEA and a former member of the Oswego City School District. He is presently retired. His hobby is collecting and working on older cars. His personal goals have always been to be honest, caring, hardworking, and trustworthy. His best assets is his interest to listen to people and hear their opinions, criticisms, and ideas. Next is Jim Bell. He was born in North Conway, New Hampshire, and he moved to Minetto with his parents and his older sister when he was 6 years old. He graduated from Oswego High School and also attended SUNY Oswego. When he was 20 years old, he decided he wanted to start his own contracting business. He is married. He has 3 beautiful daughters, each of which attend the Oswego School District. In his endeavor, 4 years ago, he decided to purchase 2 car washes here in Oswego, which has been very rewarding and challenging at the same time. Besides managing his businesses and rental properties, he also works for City Hall in the Codes Department as the permit administrator. He is entirely invested in the city of Oswego, and he has a genuine concern for the community and its ability to prosper with the proper leadership. Next is Amy Callan. She's an Oswego native. She went here to Oswego City Schools, worked at a local restaurant, and has also helped with her family's local business. After college and many travels, she returned back here to Oswego to raise her family here. She has taught middle school and high school English in 3 different school districts. She is married and she has 3 beautiful children. And once upon returning to Oswego, she and her husband wanted to give back to the community. So Amy served on the Oswego YMCA board for 8 years. Both she and her husband are vested community members that have always felt that it's extremely important to get involved and to give back. 2 of her personal goals are community involvement and also to work with the board to create long-term financial stability and sustainability for our district. She's ready to work hard and be a voice for our young families. Next, we have Fran Hofer. He is a community member here in Oswego. He's a local businessman, a former school board member, and a grandfather to an elementary student here in Oswego. We also have Mrs. Allen, who is actually hoping to be a write-in. As many of you know, she turned in her petitions, and she is in the process of appealing so that she can hopefully be a candidate as a possible write-in. She is our current board member, president. She has 4 beautiful children as well that attend here in Oswego. So with that, we will start with our first question. As a reminder, we do have sheets along the side on the music stands. So if at some time you wish to submit a question, please make sure that it's a question that can be posed to all of our board candidates, and we'll try our best to make sure that it gets read this evening. Okay, we're going to go in order, so our first question is for you, Bill. What makes you the best candidate for this job?
I think experience in this job is extremely helpful. Knowing the school district, again, I worked with the school district for 33 years in several different capacities, from mechanic to transportation supervisor, knowing the administrative parts of the district, also being union president, and being involved with budgets and union issues, personnel issues, I think that's a huge help for anyone that's going to be on board.
Thank you. Jim, same question?
I guess I feel I'd be the best candidate based on my family living here. I have a child in each of the schools, elementary, middle, and high school. I've managed my business for 27 years in contracting. I've had to make difficult decisions in choosing what was right, what I could afford, and what I thought would help my business. I'm familiar with making difficult decisions. I would really enjoy the opportunity to be a part of the school board and give an opportunity to help make those decisions.
Thank you. Amy?
Similar to Jim, I feel that I would be the best candidate for this position because being a vested community member and having 3 children in the district, it makes me extremely passionate about trying to help the board and work with the board to come up with a solution-based plan for the future, something that we could do and provide for our community to bring Oswego to a better place. Furthermore, all of my education and my experience is in education. I have my master's in curriculum instruction, and I've taught in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've taught here at the Oswego High School and also down in Cortland County. So I've been in the classroom. I've worked with a lot of different demographics. I've worked with a lot of different teachers and administration, and I think that all of those things together would really help put me in an advantage to working with this board. And lastly, I'm extremely honest. I'm a very good listener. I work great in groups. I'm able to be clear and level-headed and think through things and just I just really want to be a part of a solution-based plan for our future as an entire community.
I can think of so many people.
Mr. Hofer, would you turn your mic on? Thank you.
I can think of so many people who would be a better candidate for school board than me. I mean, all I really want to do is take photographs of birds and chase my girlfriend around the backyard. I don't want to be here. I've been here. I know how difficult and brutal this job is. I also know how unappreciated it is. And I know how hard the board members who were here work. It's a brutal, difficult, hard job. You have to be dedicated, you have to be motivated, you have to care. I suppose probably the only really thing that qualifies me is that I care. I care about our kids, I care about my little one, and I care about this community that I live in, and I've watched it decline. And I believe that this school system is part of the reason this district has declined. We need to run our schools for our kids, for our people, for our community. And I don't want this job. I'm doing it because I feel I have to. And I know what an ordeal it is. I wish that we had a better person than me that could step up and do this job so I didn't have to worry about it. But I have to try to preserve this community for my 8-year-old. And I want to have a future for my children and their children. And I'm willing to make the sacrifice, and it's a huge sacrifice. Thanks.
Thank you, Fran. Kathleen?
Mine, it's kind of a combination of everybody's, honestly. I've been on the board for the last 6 years, board president for the last 3, vice president for the 2 previous years to that. I have 4 children, 2 that have already graduated from this district. I have a 9th grader here, and I will have a 7th grader at the middle school in the fall. I think I'm not born and raised here. I'm from the Binghamton area. We've been here for 25 years. I have a degree in education. But I think my time on the board has kind of spoken for itself, and how I've carried myself and held myself in this position. And I would just look for your support for that, especially in the situation that we're in right now. I fully expect it to be appealed. for various reasons, and that's already, I'm running as a write-in, as Jen said, but just to clarify, the appeal would put my name on the ballot instead. And also in that, I can look at the big picture. I don't just focus on what my own child's needs are. And that's part of being on this board, is you have to look at what the best interest of this community, the taxpayers, the students, the staff, the faculty. You're looking at everything. And I've sacrificed my own kids for this position for 6 years. And I'm willing to do it again.
Thank you, Kathleen. Our second question, Jim, we're going to start with you. Given the current budget situation impacting the Oswego City School District, how would you personally prioritize the components that comprise a quality education?
I guess education is going to be first. I have to apologize. That's not a question that we had that you provided.
Right. This is
okay.
one
Okay.
from
So
an
you're going.
audience
I thought you
member.
were going off of this. I apologize.
Nope, that's
Could
okay.
you could you read it again, please?
Absolutely. Given the current budget situation impacting the Oswego City School District, how would you personally prioritize the components that comprise a quality education?
Education being first. The social well-being of the children, how they can keep their time. There are studies that show the kids being busy after school, if the school is the best place for them to be. And if we can't provide those opportunities for those kids, then we need to do that. And I would consider that.
Thank you. Amy?
I guess what I would say is I don't really know. I would agree education is number one, but as far as prioritizing, to me, the bottom line is that what we're doing is we're producing children who are well-rounded and diverse and have the ability to have access and choices available to them, whether that be athletics, music, theater, clubs, different learning styles with different teachers in different classrooms. So to really prioritize, I don't know that I could honestly do that, because I think at the end of the day, what we all want as both educators and parents is we want our kids to be well-rounded. And somehow that's what we need to try to figure out. We need to figure out how we can do that. We're not just going to do less of the same thing. We need to figure out a better way to provide them with more that's less expensive. So that's how I would answer that.
Thank you. Fran?
The number one priority that we have to have for our school district is quality teachers. We need to put our best people that we can find and the best people that we can get in front of our kids. Tenure kind of prevents that. I've always had an issue with that. But we need, first off, to put the best quality instructors in front of our children that we can get. And we need to make sure that mediocrity and incompetence are not rewarded. Secondarily, the second most important thing that we can do for our children is to have time on task. The amount of time that our kids spend in the classroom in front of quality instructors. The other day, my little one said to me, "Grandpa, do I have to go to school tomorrow? It's a half day." We don't learn anything on half days. We have 14 half days that are basically wasted days, wasted time on task. We're spending $80 million on education. We have 184 days, 14 of them are half days, snow days. Time on task is the second most important thing. And thirdly, what we have to have is a strong, healthy community. And the only way we're going to have a strong, healthy community is if we have a reasonable tax structure so that we can have a viable economy. And all these things go together. reasonable wages and benefits make it possible for us to have a viable tax base. Okay? 3 things: quality instruction, time on task, and a viable community. We don't have any of those things right now. And I'm going to work for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Given the current budget situation impacting the Oswego City School District, how would you personally prioritize the components that comprise a quality education?
I do believe, because it's a school district, that our biggest priority is the children of this community, and a lot goes into that. It's academics, it's good teaching, as Fran says, it's the extras, like Amy said. All that stuff has to play into it. But first and foremost, we are required by law to provide an education. I think a lot of it is relational. It's, I would love to see our teachers really connect with the kids that are on the outskirts. I've seen that in my last 6 years here, just in the different things that I participated in, coming in, working in the theater during the musicals, and you know, those kids that might be a lot of times unreachable, they're here and they have a reason to show up. And that's what every kid in this district and in this community needs. They need a reason to show up to school. They need those people to invest in them and tell them that they're important and that they want them here and to be taken care of.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, when I started back in 1980, the district had a slogan, and it was, "We were here for the kids." And I think to prioritize education, we have to look at all the aspects, the education process through elementary, secondary, intermediate, and also sports, clubs, because there's a lot of kids out there that sports or a club may be the main reason why they're coming to school. And I think and I sympathize with the board for having to make the cuts that they did. Believe me, it's a tough thing. But I mean, everything is important, and I don't know, to make one more important than the other, you have to look at the individual child. Some kids, they're great book people. They can, their classroom is great. Other kids, they're motivated through to go to school through sports or through a club. So I think that everything that we offer in Oswego is important, and it may be important to a different child, but we need to reach out to as many children as possible.
Thank you. Our next question, Amy, we'll start with you. Please identify one problem that the Oswego City School District is facing and offer your idea for a possible solution.
I would say I guess the problem that I would identify would be the lack of collaboration. I think that when you look at an effective community, it's one where everybody is involved and everybody has a say and a chance to speak and share what's important to them or how they can give their expertise or their knowledge, and everybody shares and everybody learns. It's a give and take. And that's what I feel like is missing, and that to me is one of my biggest goals. Is we need to be looking. We have a great community, and I know it's easy to sit here and say it's all doom and gloom and there's a lot of bad things going on, but I see a lot of good things going on, and I think that's what we need to focus on. And I think we have a lot of great pillars of our community and leaders in our community and just knowledgeable people with a wealth of information out there that would probably love to share with us and to sit down and brainstorm. And what a perfect world it would be if we could sit down at a table and everybody could give their thoughts. I mean, I'm saying the board and the unions, and let's get city officials and our state legislators. Let's look to other school districts in our county who have dealt with similar things that we're dealing with. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. What we need to do is reach out to other people who have gone through this and who have knowledge that maybe we don't have. And we need to work together as a community to create a plan for the future. This is not a one-man show. We all have to do this. It's our community, and we should all be proud to be in Oswego.
Thank you. Fran?
I hate to say this, but the biggest problem that we have in this community and this school district is greed. Straight up. You know, we got an $80 million budget, 3,500 kids, and we have to cut sports because nobody is willing to make any salary or benefit concessions. That's greed, folks. That's why we have to lose out on sports. We're one of the poorest districts in the United States of America, and we're spending $20,000 per child, and we have to cut sports. You know, we had an opportunity to save sports by simply accepting a $5 increase in the prescription drug copays, and that was unacceptable. It's outrageous. I can't believe that our employees will not make any concessions to benefit our children. It's greed, folks, it's greed. Come on. $80 million, 3,500 kids. Just out of curiosity, I called Beverly Hills up yesterday. They have 4,500 kids. It's the richest school district in the United States. Their budget is $66.5 million. Excuse me, $65.7 million. They're educating 800 more children than we are for $16 million less. How is that? Are their teachers more selfless? Are their people more caring? What's going on? Why? Greed. We have to combat that. We have to recognize it. We're all supposed to be in this together. Please, let's look beyond our own personal self-interest and realize that our community is our greatest self-interest. We seem to have forgotten that. And our lack of concern for everyone else around us has resulted in apathy. This is the most controversial budget I've ever seen in my life, and there are 30 people here. We've disenfranchised our entire community. They have no hope. They know that they can't do anything if they participate because the people of this district aren't listening to their community. And we're not caring for our kids. We need people here who are going to do that. We have to change the way we're doing business. Our kids come first. Our future is being ruined by selfishness and inflexibility and an inability or an unwillingness to just do what's right. And it's sickening and it's sad. And it breaks my heart. Wow.
Thank you, Fran. Kathleen?
I'll identify one that we've recently dealt with, and that's the sports cuts and the modified. Just from an experience point of view, that was a very difficult cut for the board and everybody sitting on that board and the entire administration. Before they brought it to the board, they agonized over it. We agonized over it. And in that meeting, it was a 3-hour meeting. 45 minutes of it was brainstorming, what can we do? We can't just leave these kids and not give them any opportunities. And that in that collaborative meeting with the administration and the school board, that's where we came up with a less expensive program that would be all-inclusive, as Dean explained, where kids wouldn't get cut from a team. I've had kids cut from a team. I've had kids that have made teams. But it was to be an all-inclusive when we thought we've got to do something, and we'll provide transportation. We'll put some money aside for this. That'll be a fraction of the cost of the modified, and we could do this. Kind of run like, I don't think it was explained as well until tonight when Dean did it, but kind of run like the St. Paul's Leprechaun League or the soccer program up behind the middle school. That was what we were envisioning so that we could get these kids and keep these kids invested and doing something. Unfortunately, sometimes in our society, we're all guilty of it, I'm guilty of it. A lot of times we hear what we want to hear instead of what they're trying, you know, an out-of-the-box idea and listening to it and taking advantage of it. And we coming up with a solution for it, and that was our solution to doing that. And we are still hopeful that some of those working parts in that budget number, that some of those will come around and some of these things can be restored.
Thank you. Bill?
Could you please repeat the question?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Please identify one problem that the Oswego City School District is facing and offer your idea for a possible solution.
Well, I think there's more than one, obviously, but I always found that communication was the biggest problem I've seen with the school district. When I was on the board last time, I went to all the schools, and once a month I would have a meeting with faculty, teachers, support staff, principals, parents, children came in even to express their opinions on what was going on in school. And I think today, and especially with all the cuts that are being made, the communication between the Board of Education, Dean's office, and the community are so important so that we know exactly what the community wants. You know, we're 7 people on the board, and we all have 7 opinions. However, we represent 20,000 people. So for one person to say, well, I think this is a problem, I think we need to have a broader scope of what the community wants and you know, what they would like to see. And I think the communication would be a huge step forward in solving some of our problems, or at least coming to terms with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, the one problem that I would address, obviously, is the budget. It's the biggest shortfall, with another $2 million and then $4 million coming in. It's not good looking forward. So what do? You have to have, I'm in agreement with Amy, and that there has to be some form of collaborative effort, not just with the board and the super and the teachers. It has to go even further than that. You have to go to the city, to the county, to the state. You have to reach out to your representatives, and you have to try and get their money. And they might be able to help you, and you might get a little bit more money because we're on the short end of receiving scholarships or funds from the state. But the real deal is you know, Cuomo's got money out there right now that it's a huge basket full of $200 million, and he's waving it around and he's saying, show me that you can consolidate, show me that you guys want to be more efficient, show me that you're willing to make the tough decisions, and I can reward you with this money. And so I think a focus on consolidation with communication at all levels is extremely important, and that's really the only way we're going to be able to dig out.
Thank you, Jim. Fran, we'll start with you for the next question. Given that negotiations with 4 unions will begin this year, how can you assure the people of this community that you will follow the confidentiality clause in the collective bargaining process?
Well, confidentiality is a really funny subject. You know, I served under a superintendent who thought everything he did was confidential and everything we did was an attack. Confidentiality is a funny rule. When I first got elected to the school board many years ago, I refused to sign a secrecy agreement. I was kept out of my first board meeting by armed guards. It was videotaped on Inside Oswego. It was really interesting. Confidentiality isn't meant to mean secrecy. We're supposed to have an open government. This is public education. If anything is supposed to be open and free for all the people to understand the process, it should be this government. And this government is shrouded in secrecy. Executive session is run like, it's shameful. One of the finest pieces of legislation that was ever written in New York State was the Open Meetings Law. The people have the right to know what their governments are doing and how they are doing it. Now, you can't put a shroud of confidentiality over what we're doing and say everything is secret. And that's how we do things around here. Now, we've had a lot more open government under Johnny Dunsmore's reign and the last time I was on the board. We're a lot more open, but still there is a shroud of secrecy over this school district that needs to be torn down. We need to have open government. We need to have fair government. And the only way we're going to have this is if people know what's going on. And we won't have apathy if we have open government. If people feel that they can contribute and know what's going on, then we'll have a better community and a better school system. Am I going to keep secrets? I'll keep secrets that are required to be kept. but the secrets that are required to be kept are very few and far between. There are strict rules about what is confidential. We can't claim it's confidential and then keep everything secret. I won't abide by that. People need to know what's going on, and they will know what's going on if I'm on this board. And I've done that before, and that's what will happen again. People have a right to know. Just like the open meetings law says, the people have the right to know what their governments are doing and how they're doing it. And this is government. And it should be the most open, fair, and honest government of them all. And it will be. Or I'm going to die trying.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Can you repeat it again?
Absolutely. Given that negotiations with 4 unions will begin this year, how can you assure the people of this community you will follow the confidentiality clause in the collective bargaining process?
I think my record speaks for itself. And I was only on the board with Fran before for 2 short years. So maybe it was that way before, but I know now, Fran, it's a better board. So we are very, very careful and cautious that we are following what can be discussed in open meetings and what is an executive. And frequently, we will step out because there's 7 of us there to keep each other accountable. And someone will say, this should be discussed in open, and we stop and we go out to open session. So we are very aware of what the confidentiality part is.
Thank you. Bill?
The question's funny. I was asked the same thing when I was union president. How come we don't know? And maybe to go back for a little, not lesson, but a little understanding of how the negotiation process works. I mean, when you go into negotiations, you lay, each side has things that they want to have done or they want to gain. Maybe one of the unions wants the 10% raise. Well, the problem, if you go back and tell your people you're getting a 10% raise, and then the next meeting, all of a sudden the district says, well, instead of 10% raise, we'll give you another 5% off on your insurance. Well, but to do that, we're going to take 5% off your raise. So now you've got everybody hyped up for a 10% raise, and now they get a 5% raise. You got a mutiny on your hands. And I think that the confidentiality is very important during negotiations. After negotiations, when all the dust is settled, then everyone knows exactly where they stand. But I've always felt this way, that during negotiations, because so many things can change so fast, that you can't tell, you can tell the community that, that we're going to give X union a 2% raise, and we're going to give them some other benefits. Well, then the benefits may fall short, and you renegotiate, and now you've got a 7% raise. Now the community is unhappy. So I think that while you're in negotiations, until you have a firm hand on what's going on, it should be kept quiet.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm not real familiar with the agreements that you sign or what it is that you have to do. If I sign an agreement that says that I won't talk or I won't share information with other people and it's exclusive to the people that are in the room, then I won't share it. It's that simple.
Thank you. Amy?
I'll start by saying that I'm definitely, like Jim said, there's a lot to be learned, and I'm up for learning that. And that's why I'm sitting here, because I'm passionate about that. So I do understand confidentiality on a board because, like mentioned before, I did sit on the board at the YMCA for 8 years, so I do understand that. I know it's obviously different here, but at the end of the day, I'm a trustworthy person, and I'm doing this because I want to serve the community, and I'm only going to do the right thing.
Thank you. Kathleen, we'll start with you for the next question. What are your views on class size for primary, intermediate, and secondary students?
Wow, I love that question because that has been one of my passions for the last 6 years on this board, because I've experienced it personally with my own kids and the class sizes. We can't say that, I can't say, when I was in kindergarten, I had 30 kids in my class. Our kids are different now, our society's different, the way our kids are parented is different. They get more. More teaching happens when a class size is smaller. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Knowing that we eliminated 8 teaching positions in the elementary level alone absolutely kills me, because I know for a fact that some of these classes, being in these buildings this year, I visited a 3rd grade. She had 27 kids in her class. It's an inclusion class. An inclusion class, if you're not aware of what it is, they have kids in there that are IEPs. Sometimes they would talk to teachers that had 12 IEPs in a class of 26, 27, 12 IEPs, and they could potentially have 4 or 5 kids that aren't even identified yet, because the parent maybe doesn't know or hasn't had the right resources to get them identified. That makes that teacher's position and job that much harder. Class size is so important. It's something I've researched to the nth degree because I am so passionate about it. My son was a victim of class size being too big. He was in a class, 4th grade, the teacher was killing herself. She was a wonderful, an absolutely wonderful teacher. And there were 26 kids, a new student coming in 4th grade. She was so busy managing the class that very little teaching was getting done in that classroom.
Thank you. Bill?
I have to agree with Kathleen that I know when I was on the board before, we always tried to target the class sizes between 19 and 21. I mean, that was our target size back then. I went to St. John's. We had 17 kids in the class, and I mean, it was you know, the teacher had time to spend with us. But I did a little research in between 1998 and 2012. We had a decline in students of 34% and only 9% teaching. So we actually have gained teachers for the amount of kids that we have, you know, in our school district. So I think that's a step in the right direction. We have teachers that can step in and actually, you know, help where before the classes were right at the limit and we didn't have any extra teachers. So with that reduction in students and the reduction in teachers, which was far less, I think that is a step towards achieving a goal to get to every child possible. And again, as Kathleen said, there's so many different IEPs and stuff out there today, and kids that haven't been recognized yet, that it's important to have some teachers, you know, maybe in the wings, so that we can, if we need a class or we needed to do something different, we would have that opportunity and provide the best education for all our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
I would tend to agree with both. I think everybody would applaud the smallest class that you could possibly have for the students, for the teachers, for everybody in there, that they would have the best opportunity to learn. The diminishing enrollment offers us the ability to maybe do it a little bit better, but I don't know that I'm the one to make the decision as to how many kids should actually be in a room. I would look to the teachers and the aides and the admin to be able to tell me what their needs are. And I'm sure that it's different at every level. At elementary, maybe there's a little bit more. Maybe when you get into middle or high school where you're hitting some advanced class where the kids, maybe they can afford to put 30 kids in an advanced class and take some away from make an inclusion class a little bit smaller. You know, there might be something there, but that would be my solution.
Thank you. Amy?
I would base my answer on kind of a combination of things. My experience in the classroom as a teacher, also then being a parent with 3 kids in the district and being an involved parent who serves as the classroom mom in my kids' students in elementary school. So I definitely have seen a lot of what really all of you have been saying, and I do agree with Kathleen that you know, while this has been an extremely talked about and debated topic for many, many years, it's also like multi-leveled. I mean, you can't just say what's the best class size, because there are so many components that come into this. You have to take a look at the class makeup, the demographics, the varying learning levels, and finally you have to take a look at the teacher, because you could have the smallest class in the world, but if you have a substandard teacher in that classroom, you're not going to see any better results. So it really is a combination of a lot of things. Now, with that said, what I do definitely believe in, a number that I could say, is I think that in grades pre-K to 3, I would say those, in my opinion, are the most important years to absolutely say we want no more than 18 kids per class. And I say that because I think in those years, that's where you're building the foundation for our students. That's where they're learning all of their habits and their skills and the expectations and their just how they learn, and they will carry that with them for the rest of their educational years. So I think if we focus on that and make sure that those younger years are in smaller numbers with extremely effective teachers, then I think we're building a wonderful base and foundation for our students to go forward after that. And the only other thing that I would say is I think, again, having that out-of-the-box thinking. I think when you get to high school, we could be possibly a little bit more creative in talking about class size. That, you know, for example, when you have high-level learners in an AP class, you could have a larger class because those kids can handle a larger group because they are high-level thinkers. Like Jim said, if you had kids who were struggling, then you could make that class a little bit smaller. And we could even do something that, you know, kids who are going off to college, why not add a couple of classes in there that are lecture-style classes that are even larger than that, and it prepares kids who are going off to college so they're not overwhelmed when they get there. So I just think there's a lot of ideas out there and a lot of options, and it's like I said, it's a multi-level question.
Thank you. Fran?
Well, in an ideal world where everything is equal, smaller classes are going to be better. But there are a lot of things that are a lot more important than small class sizes. First off, the quality of the instructor. I'd rather have my child in a large class with a good teacher than a small class with a bad one. I mean, straight up. Class size is irrelevant if you got a bad teacher. And we can't do anything about bad teachers. It costs millions to get rid of one of them. Who created those rules? Another thing that's more important than class size is whether our kids are fed and clothed, whether they come from a unified family. You know, when the cost of education destroys the community and we have poor children coming from crime-ridden neighborhoods, class size has nothing to do with anything. These kids want something to eat. The bottom line is we can't afford smaller class sizes, and you know, the biggest problem that we have right now is we're going to have larger class sizes because we're going to have to pay for raises. We're losing 50 positions to pay for raises. That means larger class sizes. And the people that are causing the larger class sizes are the biggest advocates of smaller class sizes. This is nuts. Our teachers know that we don't need larger classes, but they're causing it by insisting on their raises. Come on, folks. Your wages and benefits are unsustainable. If we want smaller classes, we have to be able to afford to pay the teachers. And we can't. That's what our problem is. Let's have some concessions. Let's have some care for our community. Let's have small classes with good teachers. We can do it, but we need the people who are instructing to participate in the process, to give us something back so we can afford to pay them. Come on. Okay? Sorry for being dramatic.
Bill, next question's for you. What do you bring to the table that will help the district face the $4 million budget deficit next year that will likely result in more cuts?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, I think experience working in the school district, knowing where some of the deficiencies and maybe some of the pitfalls are, when we're looking at the budget and a $4 million deficit, we have to look at, when we look at cuts, we have to look at the least amount of impact on the students. And I think that experience in budgeting and negotiations would be a huge help. Again, going back to what Fran just said, that, you know, there's 4 contracts coming up for negotiations. In each contract, I know at least 2 of them, what some of the things are in there. There's places where we could cut in that contract to save money and not hurt people to the degree where we have to cut a job or whatever, but just cut back. And I think concessions would be important. I think just looking at the contracts, going over the contracts, and seeing where we could come up with maybe a cut, a little bit here, a little bit there, without putting anyone really at risk of losing jobs. And again, if it's for the kids and we lose teachers, then we're increasing class sizes, and that impacts the children. So I think what we have to look at is the least amount of impact on our kids in our schools.
Thank you. Jim?
I would say the benefit of having me represent in that kind of situation where we're down so much money is my ability to collaborate, work with other people. I've done it my entire life. I started when I was 20 years old, my first business. You have to be able to deal with people to get through it. Whether it's a teachers union or the board or the super, or the kids, teacher, all that. And the strength of being able to talk to people, having them believe me, and understand that I'm willing to make decisions that may be difficult. That would be the yes.
Thank you. Amy?
I would go back to what I said earlier as well about collaboration. I think that what I bring to the table is I am a great communicator, and I do work extremely well on a team. And I want to work with other people. I want to collaborate. And we all know things need to be different. And that's what I said before, that we need to do things differently, and let's do things better and less expensively, not less of the same. So we need to think outside of the box, and we need to reach out to other people, and that's what I want to bring. I want to bring that collaboration and the knowledge and the help from everybody in our community who's out there, who I know is waiting to be asked to help, and get that conversation going so that together as a community, we can have a forward-thinking, solution-based plan for our community.
Can you repeat that question for me?
Absolutely. What do you bring to the table that will help the district face the $4 million budget deficit next year that will likely result in more cuts?
What do I bring?
Yes.
Ferocity, concern, openness. The problem isn't that we don't have enough money. The problem is where the money's going. I mean, we're swimming in cash. We got $79.5 million for an average daily attendance of what, 3,200 kids? We're swimming in cash. Central Square educated 200 more kids than we did with $11 million less this year. What's up with that? Fulton educated 200 less kids with $16 million less. How'd they do that? Maybe we ought to pay attention to what people around us are doing and learn from them. You know, $4 million is chump change when you're spending $30 million more than you should. We need to be frank, and we need to be open, and we need to look at what's really costing all this money. Our wages and benefits are flat out unsustainable. We need to talk hard, and we need to negotiate hard, and we know we need to have the community involved in negotiations. People need to know. I mean, our school district works for the community. You know, and who are you negotiating with? You should be negotiating with the people who are paying for you. They're kept out of the loop. If the people that are paying the bills knew what was going on, we'd have a different system. $4 million is chump change when we're spending $30 million more than we should. We need to get real about wages. We need to get real about benefits. We need to understand what pension padding is all about. We need to have participation in the cost of our health plans. And how do you do that when everything's done behind closed doors and kept secret from the community? The only strength that we have to negotiate, to cure what's wrong, is to get our people involved. They are the employer. The employees need to negotiate with the community openly. And we've never done that. And that's a crime. It's a disgrace. It's sad. And it's why this system is so out of control. Let's open the process up. There's nothing wrong with the people of the community knowing what the teachers are asking for or what the bus drivers want. We work for the community. They have a right to know. Tell them. Get their input. Give them what they need. Don't give each other what you need. And that's what the problem is.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Again, I'm just going to go back to the experience on the board for the last 6 years. This was an extremely, budget season's always very difficult. This one was probably one of the worst ones that I've personally ever been through. When you sit on the board, you have to have a thick skin because a lot of the information that gets out there is half-truths, something that I don't even know where it came from, that you just hear, you know, people say, I'll give you an example. Apparently the district bought John Dunsmore's building for $5 million. You know, I mean, there's just these lies
Wait a
that are
minute,
out there.
finish that before I get more
I
trouble.
wish I knew.
You didn't buy
But it's just, the
mean, what
thing
are
is, you're a target when you're up here. You have a big target on your back, and you have to have a thick skin. I think that's what I bring to the table, is that because I've been through it, I'm a team player, and I care immensely about the kids in this district, whether they're athletes or artists or musical or whatever. I care about them, and I've always relayed that to the best of my ability. And those things are difficult to do. And it's like Bill said, you have to look for, and we have always tried to do that, look for what's going to make the least impact on the students and on the kids. And we have been able to do that for many years. And that's how we were doing that with the reserve funds. That's how our administration got down to bare bones where we are right now. There's nowhere else to cut in administration. There truly is not. And I'm proud to be part of that board for the last 6 years, that we have chiseled away at some of those things to get to where we are. And unfortunately, this just happens to be where we are right now, that it is impacting kids, and we hate it. But I am hopeful that there are things in the hopper that Dean is continually working on. And like I said at the end of the board meeting, this is the first superintendent that I have sat under that actually had a vision for next year. It wasn't just about this year. There were no Band-Aids next year to have to pull off again. We already know. And this is the first budget that I've sat through where it was forward thinking, looking at the building to sell, the education center as well, not just mothballing a building. That's not an easy fix. It's not a money building fix either. We don't make a lot of income on that. Despite what the armchair critics are saying, selling a building is not going to make the district $4 million. It's not even close. We've talked to other districts that have done it and what they cost to maintain those buildings per year. So that's what I bring.
Thank you. Our next question, Jim, we'll start with you. Why do you want to be on the Board of Education?
I want to be on the board.
Can you please turn your microphone on?
Sorry. I would like to be on the board. For some of the reasons that Kathleen was stating, saying how big the deficit is coming in the next couple of years. The ability to try and help the community, help the kids, the teachers, to create a stable environment for them to be in, to provide them a safe place to be. I don't want to be on the outside criticizing someone else's decision. I'd rather be in the thick of it and put myself and my family in the position to be criticized or to be a target or to have to thicken the skin. I'm willing to do that. That's why I need to do it for my family.
Thank you. Amy?
I want to be on the board because, again, I want to help to work with the board and Dean to make a difference and to make Oswego School District what it should be. I want to be part of that process. I'm a doer, just like Jim said. I'm not one of those people who just sits around and complains. I want to get in there and do the work and learn what I need to do and work hard. And when I get into these type of situations, I do give 110%. And I'm honest and sincere about that, I just want to work. I want to work for all of you to bring us to a better place. I want to be part. I think it's exciting. Let's bring us to a better place, bring our community to a better place. And with 3 kids, I mean, I obviously have a vested interest with an 8-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 12-year-old. We're right in the thick of all this. And I want to be a voice for young families out there.
Thank you. Brian?
The last thing in the world I want is to be on the school board. It's boring, it's filled with minutia, it's thousands of hours of brutal hard work, there's no reward. I mean, I got a coffee cup after my last 3 years. Nobody appreciates you. Everything you do annoys half of the population. It's a terrible job. I don't want to be on the school board. All I want to do is photograph birds and spend my time in my backyard. But I'm running for school board because I feel I need to. Somebody's got to do something about this mess. And I think I can do something. So that's why I'm running. I'm not running because I want to, because I need to. And one other thing. When I was really sick with the possibility of dying, I thought to myself, well, if I go, I know that I stood up against terrible things when I was afraid. And I'm afraid to be on the school board, and it's a terrible thing. But it's necessary. I don't want to be on the school board. I wish someone could take this job and do it right. I wish someone could just take the burden off me so I don't even have to try. I want to photograph birds.
Thank you. Kathleen?
I love it. I'm not afraid of conflict. I can handle conflict, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have lasted this long doing this. I'm always up for a challenge. I have been full spectrum in my lifetime of things I've gone through. I grew up in poverty, and so I know how those kids live, and I know what those kids think and feel when they come into a building. And now, my husband does very well, certainly not, in the 1%, but, I've been there. So my heart is for the kids in this district, and to continue to fight for them as I have for the last 6 years. And I also think that our board has worked very, very well the last several years. We've had a unified board, and I am proud to serve with the people that I do. And I will say, when I do step off the board, Fran, I'm not going to get a coffee cup because we cut that budget line from NYSBA, so NYSBA's not going to bring us a budget.
Thank you, Kathleen. Bill?
I think my main reasons for running for the board this time is I want to see the communication open. I know the last time when I was going to the schools, and the first couple months I went there, no one showed up. So I went to the principals and I said, why isn't anybody coming here? They said, well, everybody's afraid of you. Well, why are they afraid of me? Well, you're a board member. You're here to do something bad. And I want to change that. I want to make the unions, know that, they can come to me. They can talk to me about issues, problems, ideas they have. I mean, there's a lot of good people that work for the school district, and they have great ideas. Some of them are afraid to come forward to a board member. I don't want to see that. I think between the unions, the community, and the administrators, to have an open communication. I think that's the greatest thing we could have. And I think that could be lacking right now. And I would like to try to change that. I want to see the principals or the teachers or the CSEA people or the community call me, come to me, criticize what's going on, give me ideas. Again, the community has a lot of ideas. I've talked to people just recently, just signing petitions, and some people have some great ideas out there. But to go to a board meeting, they don't want to go to a board meeting. So to have someone that they know will listen to them and be interested in listening to them, I think that's very important today, especially today with the budget the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, the next question will start with you. It begins with a scenario. I'm a homeowner with one income. I read at least one comment about raising taxes just a little bit more to save the handful of sports programs that are slated to be cut. I and many of us can't afford just a little bit more. What is your position on that comment?
I would agree with that. I think that, again, I'm going to go back to what I said before, that collaboratively everybody needs to sit down and everybody needs to give a little to gain a lot. So we can't just keep going the same avenue and asking the same thing. We need to, everybody collaboratively together. We're all in this for the same reason, right? We're in it for the kids. We're in it for our community. So together, if everybody gives a little, then I think that we can gain a lot as a district.
Thank
Can
you.
you read that again? I like that question. I just want to make sure I'm
Yes.
clear on it.
I'm a homeowner with one income. I read at least one comment about raising taxes just a little bit more to save the handful of sports programs that are slated to be cut. I and many of us can't afford just a little bit more. What is your position on that comment?
I can't afford a little bit more, frankly. I'm faced with the possibility of losing my home because of constantly rising property taxes. I've been in my home 20 years. I started out with a $900 property tax bill. It's almost up to $6 grand in 20 years. This is insane. My property taxes have gone up, what is that? How much percent is that? 900 to 6,000 in 20 years. This isn't just a little bit. And the other aspect of that little bit every year goes back to that old parable about the slowly boiling frog. You know, you put him in warm water and you slowly heat it and he won't jump out until he boils. The problem is every time we raise taxes just a little bit, we decrease the tax base just a little bit. So what we're doing is taking a slightly bigger piece of a slightly smaller pie every single year. Look what's happened to us. This pie is a lot smaller than it used to be, and we're taking a much bigger piece. It's not just a little bit more. It's a lot more, relentlessly, continuously, always, every year. Last year we had a 10% tax increase. Swiggle whacked us with 40-something%. We're not looking at little pieces of stuff. We need to fix the problem. The problem is rampant spending, unsustainable wages and benefits. The taxes are driving people away and destroying the tax base. We're destroying our own community with little bits more. The frog is boiled. The frog is boiled. There's no money left. So we have to deal with reality now. We can't take a little bit more from people who don't have any more. And then you look at the fairness of it. Is it fair for every one of us to pay a little bit more? So someone who's making $112,000 gets a $2,500 raise? Is that fair? Is it fair for 50 people to lose their jobs so that people making $90,000 get $1,500 raises? That's not fair. It's wrong. And someone with a single income, a small tax increase is a big hit so that someone who's making huge money gets a nice raise. It's not fair. And it's driving people away. And it's destroying us. It is. It's sad. And I had to ask, what's wrong with you people? Don't you understand what you're doing to your own people and your own community with your little bit more every year? We have to stop this. What we have to do is give a little bit back every year. We haven't. Those of us who are making these fabulous salaries can accept a $5 increase in their prescription drug copay, or pay a little bit more for their health insurance. You're looking at 50 different jobs because you have to have raises and you need a little bit more to pay for it. Come on. Show that you care. Look at there are a lot of one-income homeowners who are going to lose their homes. And that 10% tax increase that we had last year was reimbursed to us this year. And it's not being reimbursed this coming year. The 10% tax is going to hit us hard now. And 2.5 more, that's 12.5%. It's actually a little more than that if you add 2.5 on top of the 10% on top of the tax before that, and the water fees going up, and the 40% that Oswego hit us with. There ain't nothing left. And I'm facing the loss of my own home because of this kind of thing. I don't want to have to give up food and not be able to feed my children because somebody needs to get a $2,000 raise so that they can retire with a bigger pension. That's what we're looking at here, folks. That's the reality of it. And it's sad. It's wrong. So what do we need? We need somebody to speak up about this kind of thing plainly and clearly. This is a problem. You know, greed is the enemy and taxation is the weapon. And if you want to destroy your community, wield that weapon hard or just use it a little bit. But it's destroying. That's why I'm here. This message needs to be given out to the community that's not there. Where are they?
Thank you, Mr. Hover. Kathleen?
Can you repeat it again, please?
Yes.
Jen?
I'm a homeowner with one income. I've read at least one comment about raising taxes just a little bit more to save the handful of sports programs that are slated to be cut. I and many of us can't afford just a little bit more. What is your position on that comment?
My position on that is kind of what I've already stated, which is the forward thinking. Yes, we could raise the taxes a little bit more this year. There's a group that asked the board to do just that. Positive Energy Oswego asked us to do that, and we declined because it would only be a Band-Aid for this year. It wouldn't solve the problem, the $4 million problem for next year. And it was an these were discussions that we had, they were very difficult. We can't just put Band-Aids on stuff. We have to fix the problem. I sound like Fran. But we have to go deeper and fix the problems and the real issues. Knowing that that $4 million was there, knowing what we increased taxes last year by 9%, some of us on the board had a really hard time with just that 2.5%. That was a struggle for us. I lived it. Fran's saying that not everybody can afford it. I lived that. I lived day to day with my family in Binghamton, not knowing where the money was going to come for the electric bill, the mortgage. Can't tell you how many dollars went to pay my mortgage, to my parents' mortgage. How many liens were on our house, my parents' wages garnished. We had no furnace growing up. We didn't have a tub or a shower. This was my reality. So when I hear people say just a little bit more for this, it gets me right down deep because I lived it. And I know that not everybody can afford a little bit more.
Thank you. Bill?
I think the budget process, and some people may not make this comparison, but the school district is no different than your home. You have a budget that you set for home, you have an income, and you set a budget to that income. I applaud Mr. Guai this year for actually doing a revenue-based income, which we haven't seen in the past. That being said, with all the intangibles out there, fuel cost, food cost, we do food for our children, Niagara Mohawk, and all the other costs that are incurred by the district that are out of our control. It's hard to maintain a 0% budget it's easy to maintain a 0% increase in taxes, but again, the money has to come from somewhere, and that's what we've done. We've taken it from the reserve fund or whatever to make up the difference. However, each year, everything goes up, and it's almost impossible to say, you know, we don't have to raise taxes maybe 1% or 0.5%. I think that most people, and again, unfortunately, most of the people probably in the school district, maybe 30 or 40% are on a fixed income. I know I am, and it certainly makes a difference. But we need to understand that when people are making out a budget, if they think there's maybe a 0.5% or a 1% increase, that's more tolerable than saying, well, we're not going to increase taxes for 5 years, but the 6th year we're going to hit you with a 9% tax increase. That's huge, and that impacts the budget tremendously. And again, once that impacts their budget, it impacts everything right down the line. It impacts what they can afford to feed their children, how they clothe their children. And if we're truly here for the kids, those are the things we have to watch out for. And I think that the more we watch out for that, and we try to maintain as small a tax increase as possible due to the intangibles that we have to deal with every year, I think that that's important, and I think that will make things go smoother. And again, open communication between the school district and the public so that we keep them abreast of what's going on and why these increases are needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm sorry, can I have you repeat it again? I just want to make sure I get it straight here.
Yes. I'm a homeowner with one income. I've read at least one comment about raising taxes just a little bit more to save the handful of sports programs that are slated to be cut. I and many of us can't afford just a little bit more. What is your position on that comment?
My position is that I think everybody's at their threshold of paying tax. I think we have absolutely maxed that out. And every time that it's 2 or 2.5 or 3, that it is a difficult thing to absorb. It's something that each home is going to have to do more with less. You're going to have to make choices. You're going to have to do those things. It's important that everybody share in the burden of those tax implications. The choice of making a 0.5% for a sports program or 1/4% for a music program is a difficult one. I can't imagine going through what Kathleen, the rest of the board went through. I'm sure it's torturous, and Dean for putting it together. But I think we've had enough. I don't think we can sustain anymore.
Thank you. We would like to wrap things up, and we'd like to open it up to each of you. We'll begin with Fran. Please give us any closing thoughts.
I'd like to go out to my mailbox and open up the Palladium Times and see a headline. Concerned OCTA and CSEA officials agree to wage concessions. 50 positions saved. Sports restored. Tax increase removed. That's what it would take. A wage freeze. A wage freeze from people making $112,000 a year plus 68% for benefits. A wage freeze just to be content with what you have while everyone else is suffering. We can restore all of this, and we can give hope to our community. I'm asking the bargaining units to give us a little bit back to help us save all these things that we are going to lose. 50 positions, larger class sizes. You people know how bad that is. You know how wrong that is. You can preserve those positions. You can preserve your own young. Please. You might be willing to eat your own young, but I intend to defend mine and everyone else's. Come on, give us back a little bit. You have the power to preserve. Use it. Be content with what you have for 1 year, and then let's work to preserve the future of this community. That's what we all need to work for. And when I went to school, my role models and the people that I respected and loved and honored the most in my life were my teachers. My 7th grade English teacher, Miss Perry. My 4th grade teacher that taught me how to read and spell. My chemistry teacher in 8th grade who taught me how to take tests. They were my mentors. They were my role models. I adored them. I respected them. And I loved them. And I want to feel that way about you. And I don't. And it breaks my heart that I have to feel bad about people who are depriving our children because of greed. And I know how we got here. We had tons of money. We had plenty to spend. And we got ourselves into a position where it's time to give something back. And the giving back will not happen because your leaders won't bend. Bend a little bit. Give it back. Help us. We always gave to you willingly, gladly, because we loved you. And now we need you to give us something back. Please, I'm begging you. Do the right thing so I don't have to serve on this board. Do the respectable thing. Do the right thing. Care for your community. Save the kids. Keep the class sizes where they are. Save sports. Be content with what you have. Stop taking from everybody else. Let me go back in my backyard and drink beer and chase Linda around. All right? Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Hofer. Kathleen?
I'd just like to say I would appreciate your support, and if the appeal isn't overturned in a timely fashion, because you're dealing with the state, that write-in spot is right there, and Kathleen Allen fits in very nicely. But I've served this community and the kids in this district to the best of my ability for the last 6 years. I have always kept myself in check with who I am. I've never used my position for anything other than to benefit the kids in this district, and not just my own kids, but all the kids in the district. And I think my experience has spoken to that. I've had 2 kids graduate from this high school. I have one here. I have a younger one. And within my kids, I've had stellar athletes. I've had mediocre athletes. I've had musicians. And my youngest, we adopted at 3 years old, and he has some learning disabilities and issues, doesn't quite qualify. So I've always fought for him too, because New York State and the whole special ed program, he doesn't qualify for help because of where he's lacking. So there's a lot of gaps in education, like Fran's talked about multiple times. But that, along with my experience and my personal experience as a child and what I've gone through, I just want to continue to fight for the kids in this district. And our board works extremely well together. We know how to come out and be unified. We know how to agree to disagree. And believe me, there's been times where I've gone head to head with every single person on that board. But we can agree to disagree. And I can say honestly that I love the people that I serve with. And that's what it is, it's serving. And I will continue to serve with my entire being like I have.
Thank you, Kathleen. Bill?
Well, I think I would like to see everyone come together, the unions, the administrators, everyone get ideas, open communication. Again, I think that's the most important thing. Bring back the slogan that we are truly here for the kids. And I think if everyone gets together and everyone participates in the budget process, and we keep an open communication between the unions, the administrators, I think that's so important to bring the most positive impact we can have on our kids and their learning abilities. I think that's the most important thing, and I hope that people support me for that, because I'll do my best to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jim?
I really have one goal in running for board, and that's to create a stable environment for the kids, for the teachers, for the community. To be able to do that, you have to be confident in your ability to deal with the people. And I don't know how many buses we're going to buy. I don't know if we'll have football. I don't know the particulars of what the consequences of each additional budget moving forward. But I do know that it's a people game and that you need to be able to communicate. And I think I'm the conduit that can do that. I think I'm the person that is built specifically for that. It's what I've done my whole life. So if that's what you'd like, then vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Amy?
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity for us to be able to be heard. I think I'm the best candidate for the board because I think that I bring a lot of different experiences to the table. That I've been in the classroom, I've been in different districts. That's where my education is. That I have 3 children in the community and very active in every aspect of their life, in the classroom, on the field, on the court. We have a very involved family, and the other thing is that I'm a great communicator, and I love research and collaboration, and I love to delve in and learn new things and come up with new ideas and work as a team to come to a solution that's going to be the best for our community. And like I said before, I really think that a key component is that collaboration and the working together of the board with Dean and with the unions, and then reaching out even further, looking to other school districts, looking at our city officials and our state legislators, and using all of the information. And I'm excited about that opportunity to be part of such a change in the way that things could be done. And I really would appreciate any and all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank each of you, not only for being here tonight so that we can all get to know you a little bit better, but truly for throwing your hat into the ring and for stepping up for our city school district. Thank you, each of you. And thank you to each of you for being here tonight. This concludes Meet the Candidate Night. Thank you.